We are officially ready to start.
We are ready to start.
So we can go ahead and get started. But we would love to keep this chat going. Please keep using the chat. You can drop questions in there. You can talk to each other. We'd love to see those discussions grow because this is a great time to connect with each other. So as rural teachers, or as teachers in general, I think having those connections and building that sense of community is so important. So please, let's keep that chat going and keep on talking. So welcome, everybody. We are so glad you could be here today for the Making CS Thrive in Your Rural School session. My name's Lori, and I'm a senior PD specialist at CodeHS. And I'm so very excited to be here with you today. And I'm with my good friend and colleague, Joni, and she is also a senior PD specialist here at CodeHS as well. And we both come from rural schools. Not in New York, but I am from South Dakota, so it's super duper rural. I think most of South Dakota is very, very rural. And Joni is from Indiana, so we will tell you a little bit more about our schools in just a little bit. But this is a topic that's very near and dear for both Joni and myself. And this is actually something that I'm diving into more on a personal level. I'm a doctoral candidate who is actually making this the focus of my research. So those barriers to education in rural schools, and CS in particular, can be a real problematic field to try to bring in to our rural school districts. So if you would like to grab our slides, you can certainly grab this link, codehs.com/CS for NY-rural. Joni just tossed that into chat. You can also scan the QR code if it's easier to take a look at on a mobile device. And you'll have access to this beyond the session today. But we want to make sure you have it in case you want it. And if you're just joining us, feel free to go ahead and add your intro into chat if you'd like. You can tell us anything you'd like to about where you're joining us from today. All right. So, yep, those are some of the questions, but feel free to share whatever you'd like in chat today. We love getting to know the teachers that we get to have sessions with. So please let us know where you're joining from. So I've got a couple of slides here first, just in case you'd like to check out more about CodeHS. And as a little side note as well, when I was actually still in the classroom, I used CodeHS for many years from 2014 to 2019. And so I am one of those CodeHS teachers, which is why I work here now. So, but if you'd like to check it out, feel free to head to codehs.com/sign up. If you are creating a brand new teacher account today, know that we go through a process of verification. So it'll take just a little bit before you get solutions and some of those other cool teacher tools. But definitely head to that. Joni, do you want to double check that link and see if we have an issue there? I'm not sure what's going on with that one.
Yeah, I'm checking that out.
We'll make sure that you can get in there. And actually, let's see, did I link it? Okay, this is what you should see once we make that work. So I'm not sure what's going on there. If you want to try.
It's the slides. I think it's the slides.
Oh, the slides link. Oh, can you double check my slides link? Yeah, that's a Lori goof. Joni will get that fixed for us. Sorry about that, everybody. Okay, so anyway, if you want to sign up for an account, feel free to do so. It's always free, so it only takes a couple of seconds. And if you would like to check out some of the content, some of the course content, you can absolutely head, once you sign into CodeHS, you can head to codehs.com/go/CS4NY. And I'm going to go ahead and add that to chat since Joni is fixing my goof. Bear with me 1 second. There we go. So once you sign into CodeHS, even if you've just created an account, you can actually click this to join our workshop or our session section today. We're not going to use this in the session, but I thought it would be nice if you could check out one of the New York courses that we've built. So feel free to join the section. To do so, I'll just show you what this looks like. When you click that link, once you're signed into CodeHS, you're going to see you can join the section that has 2 of me. There's 1 of Joni as your teacher. Join the section. And this is what it's going to look like from your perspective when you join. So you'll get to see all the content that's included with the New York CS 9 through 12 course that we've built. And we'll talk a little bit more about that course in a little bit. And I'm just going to take a quick peek as well. Let's see if we have anybody joining. And it's okay. If you want to join later, you sure can. Oh, look, we have some teachers. Thanks for joining, everybody. So absolutely, you can play with this. If you're not in a good place to join this right now, no worries. Again, we're not going to use it during the session, but we thought it'd be a really good opportunity for you to check out some of the content that we've included in one of our New York courses. And that's not going to go anywhere. You can always join after the session as well. Okay, it looks like Joni fixed my mistake. So if you could go ahead and try the slides link again, that would be great. I'll go ahead and back up so you can see it too. CodeHS.com/CS4NY-rural.
I think we're good. Somebody let us know in chat if that all works. Thanks.
Perfect. And thank you for giving us a heads up about that. Okay, so for those of you who might not have ever heard of CodeHS, I wanted to take just a minute to let you know who and what we are. So when you think of CodeHS, we really want you to think about the word comprehensive. We really want to give you pretty much everything you could possibly need to teach computer science, whether it be in elementary, middle, or high school. And you might not have heard, if you are familiar with CodeHS, you might not be aware that we do have elementary curriculum now too. It's a little bit different model since it is still a pretty custom thing that we do with elementary, but we do have that as well. Middle and high school has content that is available to all teachers for free. You are not restricted from any of our curriculum, and we'll talk about the courses in a little bit. So I wanted to just give a little bit more background because I really like this story. And this is one of the things that really made me feel connected with CodeHS when I first started using the platform way back in 2014. So up in the top corner on those slides are our co-founders, Jeremy and Zach. And Jeremy Keeshan and Zach Gallant met during their freshman year at Stanford. And they both worked together helping to not only teach the Intro to CS courses, but also building some of the course tools as well. And one of the things that really surprised them when they got to Stanford was when they realized how many of their fellow classmates had never experienced computer science. They had never even had access to a computer science course and didn't even have that as a possibility to take before they came to Stanford. And so that they realized there's a huge problem there. So in 2012, their senior year at Stanford, as a passion project, they began CodeHS. And the sole goal was to make sure that all students and all teachers everywhere could have access to really high quality computer science and programming education. So that year, they visited hundreds of classrooms all around the US, 2 road trips in that pink van with a little dog on top. And I don't know if we have anybody here who's maybe gotten a visit from Jeremy or Zach or somebody else from CodeHS. I've talked to a lot of teachers who still have pictures and really fond memories of those times. So that was our start. And our mission was, and always will be, empower all students to meaningfully impact the future. So one of our slogans is read, write, code, because we absolutely wholeheartedly and passionately believe that coding and computer science are fundamental skills that all students should have. And it's what's going to really help ensure that students can be successful after high school. So this session in particular, of course, we're focusing on rural schools. So when we're thinking about rural, and I know we're talking about New York, but I always like to start with this big picture view of what is rural. And it can mean so many different things to so many people. And in fact, all around the US, there is approximately, I think that's around 43% or so of all the schools in the US, all the districts are rural in nature. So this is actually from the NCES data that combines the groups of rural and town schools. But you can see what a big chunk of schools that makes up. So Joni is from Indiana, and she actually has her own ideas about what rural is. And Joni, I don't know if you're in a good place to mention any of this, or okay.
Yeah, the gator's not going by anymore, so we're all good now.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I taught 25 years in one school and 2 years in another, and I considered both of them rural, but I had two very different experiences. The first school that I worked at is a rural school, and so you've got a lot of farmers in the area, a lot of agriculture, but you also have a lot of blue class workers. Some of the auto industry is very heavy where I taught, and so we had like 200 students per 200 students per grade in that school. But then I moved to another school that was pretty amazing because it had 60 students per grade, and so that obviously, Lori, we've lost your screen share, by the way. There you go. And so it was definitely a different feel there, and we had 4 different counties that actually fed into the school, and the miles that it actually spread was quite different. And so I also was in 2 different time zones. We had schools coming from the other time zone also. And so a couple of things that we noticed, or I noticed in my schools, first of all, I was in an island. So I was the only computer science teacher in both places. That can be good because they kind of left me alone and I got to do my own thing. But then as I started working for CodeHS, and I noticed what that networking with multiple computer science teachers could have done for me is amazing. I definitely missed out on that, and I didn't even realize that I was missing out. So I'm so glad that all you guys are here, because I think it can make a huge difference. Getting qualified teachers is definitely a challenge in my schools, and scheduling was probably the number one challenge that we had, getting computer science into the school and out to the students. Not really into the school, we had it. It was getting it to the students that was the challenge for us.
Cool. Thanks, Joni. And keep me posted if my screen share goes away. I didn't notice anything on my end, so thank you. Yeah, so when Joni and I connected a few years ago, we realized that we both thought of ourselves as from rural schools or rural districts. And we even had much different experiences, because my rural experience is in South Dakota, where I had 318 students in K-12. And not only were we in a rural district, but our geography is so sparse. We're so far away from other school districts that it even isolates us even more, which makes it pretty difficult. So, and Virginia, yeah, with 200, let's see, a school K-12 with 213 to 20 students per grade. Yeah, exactly. That's it gets interesting. One district with 35 students, K-12. Oh, wow. Yeah, so our situations are pretty similar numbers wise. So, but it's so interesting to see how the idea of what is rural is different, not just from state to state, but within states. And even within my state in particular, the idea of rural takes on much different things, because there are some very, very tiny schools and schools that are in danger of closing because they are so rural. But it brings on a whole new host of challenges and barriers, especially when you're thinking about how do you get a course established or a subject established that might not be considered a core topic or even a required topic. And so I ran into a lot of those issues. And one of my biggest challenges is that I eventually ended up having anywhere between 35 to 45 students during each class period. Oh, and I was the district technology director. So there was that too. So we know what happens in rural schools. We wear lots of hats. So yeah, definitely share your stories about your rural schools, because rural is rural. You might have many more students than that, but you're still considered a rural school. And it still accounts for some significant barriers when we think about CS classes. So this is another graphic that I like to include because it, again, is beyond New York, but it still talks about the exposure to CS courses according to those classifications that we see in the NCES data. So again, they're combining rural and small town, and you can see what the exposure is. It's somewhere around 53% of schools have exposure to CS classes. And it's not too bad compared to large city. Suburban is still over the 60% mark. And when we start looking at that New York data, we start to see that break down a little bit more and really see what is our exposure to computer science in our rural school districts. And when we look at this data and look at rural, we have 43% of schools that offer CS. And there's a host of reasons for why they may not. And I included a little bit more information here. I'm kind of a data nerd, so I had to include some of this in here. But it's always interesting to me to get a picture of what we're seeing happen in schools by looking at this data. So access by year in New York specifically, you can start to see how it's starting to grow. And actually in 2022, I think you're around 64%, if I recall correctly. So you're certainly seeing that climb, which is awesome. And then when we look at access by geography, and I apologize because this got a little bit blurry, but you can absolutely see these graphs if you head out to the State of CS report from code.org. But you can see that rural schools have 46% of those schools that have access to CS. So it's really interesting to see where those breakdowns occur. And I also think it's interesting too, I didn't include any of the information about diversity and, what we're seeing in terms of that and who has access and, what cultural and racial groups have better access. But it's really interesting when you start to take a look at that as well, which you can see from this data here as well. So when we think about the problems that are facing rural communities, in many ways, I think that the problems we see in rural districts are also very similar to the issues that we see in education across the board. But unfortunately, when we're talking about rural, there are some things that are still unique to our particular communities, and other issues that are simply exacerbated because we are rural. So some of the problems that are really kind of unique to many rural communities are that there's just simply a lack of exposure to CS in rural communities. And that's going to translate into a lack of access to computer science in the schools. So when I'm thinking about that lack of exposure, I think about my own situation in which I only, at my own house, got a fiber connection last year. And I am extremely lucky because there are so many people who still don't have that in my state. And as soon as I got fiber, what I heard from my ISP was that they had never had to answer a support call in my area before I had gotten that, or before I'd even moved here with my old internet connection. And they said, yeah, nobody really used it. And so I was really starting to see how that is such a true statement. There is much more of a lack of exposure to computer science in rural communities. And sadly, that also translates into a lack of understanding about what is computer science and what is programming and why is it important for us to get this to our kids. That also means there's going to be a lack of representation. So when we do bring in computer science, we are going to be losing out still on some of those groups who might be marginalized in our community. We still are going to have less females and less non-binary students, and all those groups that we should be representing. We're not going to see that in our classes, and it's going to be a pretty significant loss for us. In many parts of the US, we also see, and this is an interesting one to me, and this is something I actually dug into more, rural populations are growing faster than urban populations. Unfortunately, though, with that statistic, poverty rates are also rising in rural communities because in many cases, there is a lack of industry or a lack of that job growth or lack of commerce. And so it's interesting to see all of those economic issues that play into the issues that we're facing in our schools. So like I said, some of those issues are very, very unique to rural communities. However, some of these are also things that we see in other communities as well that aren't considered rural, but they get exacerbated for us who are in those rural school districts. Things like access to curriculum and hardware. I know for myself, when I was in my district, I had to figure out, how do I fund computers? And eventually when we were able to go one-to-one, I had to figure out, how do I continue to fund this? And finally, just choosing a device that we could work with, like Chromebooks, and keeping them as cheap as possible so I could keep it going. Scheduling constraints are a massive issue for us. We heard a lot about scheduling issues in some of the other sessions this morning. There were some phenomenal sessions, and scheduling issues are a real problem in every school, but especially in rural school districts where you might have one section for each grade for those core subjects. If that's the case, how do we get those electives in place? So we'll talk a little bit about that today too. Access to professional development gets even trickier for rural teachers, and that leads into the problem of not enough certified teachers. Our keynote from this morning talked about the problem of not having certified teachers, or those teachers who feel comfortable teaching computer science. And that becomes an issue because now we've lost our pipeline for who's going to teach computer science. So another huge, huge issue for rural districts. And a big one, I think, for rural is that CS is simply not a priority at the district level sometimes. Often, I know this was something I experienced because there is no requirement for CS. In fact, where I am, there are no standards. There's really no priority at the state level as well. And so, unfortunately, that makes it a real problem to bring it in at the school level. So we have to be creative. So rural CS teachers, we got this. We just have to be a little creative in how we do it. So I want to talk first about meeting some of those curricular challenges. And we're going to start with the courses that we can use. And I'm thinking about these courses in terms of a couple of things. First of all, we are going to meet some of those challenges where we might not have access to really high quality curriculum and be able to teach kids what they need. But we also want to think about how we engage our students, because it's going to be critical that we get those kids excited about computer science and excited about programming and see what the relevance is to their life so they can understand how it can help them be successful beyond high school. So I'm going to talk a little bit first about meeting some of those curricular challenges. We're going to take a look at some of the courses that every teacher has available to them. So I had to look a little bit. First of all, I made sure I was familiar with the standards in New York. I've worked with quite a few New York teachers, and so I've been looking at these for a while, and I wanted to make sure I show you how you can see those standards and see those standards aligned courses that we have. So keep in mind also, and I didn't mention this earlier, I don't think I did, but everything, almost every single thing that we show you today is available to every teacher for free. I will make sure to point out which things would require a pro license, because there is a pro part of CodeHS, but every single thing that we show you is going to be available for free. And one more side note, I actually used CodeHS as a free teacher from 2014 to 2019, the entire time I used it. So you can absolutely do that. So first of all, we do have a couple of New York courses that we've created for your state. So these are completely aligned to New York standards. So we have a New York CS 9 through 12 course. This one is a high school level course with 120 contact hours. There's also some supplemental content you could add in there if you want to. And then we also have the New York CS 7 through 8 course. And this one is 60 contact hours, so more of a semester long course. But there's absolutely more that you have access to. And Joni did throw in the chat the course overviews and the syllabi, and I'll take you out to that in a minute. But I wanted to show you those courses, and I'm going to show you how we can get to those and really start checking out what we have available for New York teachers. So if you head out to codehs.com/states/NY, this is going to take you out to our state page. And you'll be able to see those 2 courses that we've built that are completely aligned to your standards. So I'm going to go ahead and open that in a different tab. There we go. So we can take a quick look at what those have. So in the high school course, you can see all of the different units that we've included here. This is a JavaScript-based programming course with some additional content as well. So some digital citizenship and cyber hygiene, networks and the internet. And then we get into JavaScript, where your kids are going to learn some of the basics. You're going to start with Carol the dog. If you haven't heard of Carol the dog, you definitely have to join our conference session so you can try it out, because that's how I've hooked a lot of kids on computer sciences with Carol. But you can see all the units available, including a computer science careers unit here too. And if you want to check out some of the programs that are available, you can actually check out our embedded IDE down here at the bottom. And then the middle school course, I'm going to go ahead and open that too. Just take a quick peek. Oh, and you can get to the syllabi for any of the courses here as well. And you can take a look at what's included here. One of the things that I get really excited about is that we have some interdisciplinary courses, and I'll show you where those are at. But things like exploring art with code, exploring music with code, we've got a sports and code, a lot of things like that that can really get kids excited about programming and computer science and make that connection for them so they can see how can this impact their life once they are out of school. So I'm going to jump back over here to the state course. Oops, getting too click happy. There we go. Now I'm in the state or in the state page. So this again was at codehs.com/states/NY. And I want to show you a couple of other things that you can see here. So if I scroll down, and this would be a page I would recommend bookmarking. You can see a few computer science stats, some other information. And about 2/3 of the way down the page, you're going to see the New York Standards alignment. So one of the things that we do, and we just do this as we start seeing what standards states have. If a state rolls out new standards, we update ours. If they roll them out for the first time, we add them. So you can actually see our standards alignment here. And what's really nice is if you click on one of these alignments, it will take you to our alignment tool. And this is really cool because you're going to see all of these standards that are included in that grade band. And you're going to see all the CodeHS lessons that align to each of those standards with hyperlinks. So this is going to be a really nice page to keep in mind. You'll see that since we've created this course for New York, it is 100% mapped to your standards. But what's really cool is if you want to try out some other courses, you can click this drop down and you can actually try any of the other courses in our catalog too. So definitely a nice feature. Not enough teachers know about this feature. So I always like to show this to our to every teacher we work with. And rural teachers, this is just nice because now your standards are mapped and you don't have to worry about it. And by the way, you do not have to be a pro teacher to use this tool. It's available to you. And there we go. I've got the link there again for it. And I just wanted to list this here too, because if you do take a look at the CS for NY page, at the training and curriculum page, you are going to see us under the professional development providers. So you can take a look at us here as well. We've got some of those cool integrated courses here too. All right. So before we leave the discussion about the courses, I also wanted to make sure to point out here that we do have a ton of industry relevant programming languages and other topics as well. I absolutely believe that CTE and using our programming courses, including those in CTE programs, is critical to help our students find success. And rural schools in particular, so often we're missing that authentic connection between our schoolwork and how it connects with our life outside of school. Kids often come in with a very definite idea of what they want to do, and they don't necessarily see that programming has a relevant place in it. And so one of the things we try to do too is provide those industry relevant programming language courses. So things like Python, my favorite, just had to mention that, Python, JavaScript, Java. Actually, Java's kind of a close second for me now. I really like Java. C++ is amazing. We've got some courses there. HTML, CSS, MySQL. And I didn't put the cybersecurity courses here, but those are also aligned to the CompTIA or CompTIA tests. I know our cyber courses are aligned to ITF Plus and 100% to ITF Plus, partially to Security Plus, and Network Plus also has some alignment there as well. So I'm going to show you how to access these courses or where you can check them out. So if we browse to codehs.com/course/catalog, I feel like I have this open somewhere. Like I'm just opening tabs randomly now. Here we go. No, not quite. There we go. There's the course catalog. I try to be prepared, then I click things anyway. I don't know why I bother opening these things, Joni. So this is what the course catalog looks like. And if you haven't looked at it before and you start browsing through it, you're going to see a lot of courses. We have well over 100 courses at this point. And there's just almost anything that you want to choose from, including a brand new Python pathway, if we have other Python fans out there, for middle and high school, and it creates a really nice vertical alignment. But you can see all this content, and then we start to get into some really amazing stuff like digital art with P5.js. So if you're teaching JavaScript, which all those New York courses that we built have JavaScript, this is an awesome one to add in to really engage with those kids who might be much more creatively inclined and really want to focus on art. So digital art with P5.js is an awesome, fun course. And this one is also super new, Intro to Game Design with P5 Play. And if you haven't checked it out, it is so fun. You will get addicted to it. So I know I am. But tons of courses. And I'm going to try to zoom in because it's a little tiny. There we go. You're going to see this little ES symbol. You're going to see this more and more often because one of our features now is that we have a ton of courses in Spanish, and you do not have to add 2 courses. It's in one course. You can choose for your students, if it's easier, which language they'll use, or they can choose themselves. So very handy, and I love that update.
Hey, Lori, while you're there, can you show them how, if they want to check out a course themselves, that they can, I don't know if you were going to, but I'm like, the enroll button, hit the enroll button, check it out.
You know, I had it later, but the way I talk,
okay.
So I'm going to do it here. So
Let's do it.
So awesome. So one of the issues we run into is PD. How do we continue our learning as rural teachers? So in the course catalog, you're going to see a handy dandy little enroll button. Anybody, any of you can enroll in any course to actually go through the course as a student would. So if you're interested in learning web design, you can enroll. If you're interested in learning web development, I love this course. You can enroll there, any of them. You can see some of them already say view for me because I click them all the time. So I try to take all the courses all the time. So there's that. But this is a really cool way to take these courses. And as a side note, how many times have I said a side note? This is why I'm always behind. So as another side note, the reason I know Python and Java and probably, JavaScript too. This is why I know Bootstrap, why I got pretty good at C++. A lot of languages is because I took them here. So this has been one of my best professional development moves for myself. And if we have anybody trying to pass any of those teacher prep tests out there, and you need object-oriented programming, I would recommend this. This is why I passed a lot of tests, is because I took these courses here. So I definitely check this out. Free teachers, you are not restricted from anything here. You can take any of these courses and you can have your kids use these courses for any of your students too. Okay, so, and I will have to step it up a little because I'm a little bit behind in time. I got too many side notes going on. So when you're thinking about what it's going to look like, so often in your rural school, you're going to be the one making a lot of decisions about what courses you're going to teach. So you're thinking about, or if you're one of those specialists who gets to do K-12, you're going to be thinking about that vertical alignment. So we do have a pathway builder. I won't spend a ton of time on it, but I do want to give you this link. This is brand new. I like to say it smells new because it is that new yet. You'll see this change. We'll add a ton of improvements to it. But this is a really good way to look at and really plan out what your pathway might look like. And definitely check out those Python courses, because the ones that we've built for middle school, I would have frankly used them for ninth graders as well, but there's a lot of really cool new courses, lots of really good new C++ courses as well too. All right, and if you've got questions, I've got one eye on chat, and Joni is keeping an eye on that for me too. Definitely toss any questions that you might have in there. All right, so as we're thinking about engaging students, we've talked about it a little bit. We really need to connect that learning for our kids, but one of the issues is scheduling constraints. I know that was my biggest issue. In my tiny rural school district, I had kids who just needed to take the required classes, and I couldn't have a typical schedule. One of my favorite sessions from this morning was the accessibility, creating accessible courses with, I'm going to mess up their names, Victoria Berkowitz and Curry, I don't remember her name. Anyway, they were brilliant, and they did exactly the kinds of programs that I did too. If you have not watched that one yet, I would highly recommend. It's so applicable to so many schools, but rural teachers, that one is going to be such a help for you. They gave some amazing tips for making asynchronous courses and having those kind of self-paced courses. And so that's what we can do with scheduling constraints. Rural teachers, sometimes that's what we got to do. So one of the things that Joni actually did was to have an independent study for some of her students. She often ended up teaching 2 classes in one class period, and having that independent study at the same time as another course was running allowed her to have students in that same face-to-face class period while both courses ran concurrently. One of the things that I did was to put classes online. So I definitely did that asynchronous approach for my courses because I knew my kids aren't going to be able to get in to those sessions or to my sections that they wanted to take. So we scheduled students into a study hall. And on that first day of class, I talked to them and said, what should we learn? What are you interested in? Are you feeling creative? What are you feeling like you'd like to try? And then we set up their course on CodeHS. The course was completely asynchronous. However, much like, I can't recall if it was Victoria or Curry who mentioned this morning that they did a lot of just kind of quick meetings and really intentional meetings with the kids as well to talk about their progress. I was always available for that too. But this was what allowed me to also increase the number of kids that enrolled in my courses exponentially. At one point, we even had to talk about, do we cap the classes? I eventually chose pretty much not to, because my point of it was to get kids in it. And it was pretty amazing. So I highly recommend checking this out. Check out their session if you weren't at it. Watch the replay because they gave some amazing tips for how to do asynchronous computer science classes. So the online coding IDE is also a real savior for these kind of courses as well. Everything is online. I'm not going to take a real long time to go through it, but I'll just give you a quick, that's not the thing. There we go. You can see a little bit about what it looks like. You don't need to download anything. This was a savior for me because, of course, budget was tight. And so I was purchasing the cheapest Chromebooks I could get. And eventually we were going to bring your own device. But again, that's not going to work for everybody. We have some students who just simply couldn't afford it. And so I was looking at those Chromebooks, and this is what allowed me to really bring computer science and programming education to all of my students was CodeHS. And so you can see the IDE here. You can run it. This happens to be a Carol activity. There goes Carol. And you can see this is a more traditional JavaScript type of lesson here, where kids are actually going to type in the IDE. They've got documentation here. So just like that real world experience where they can actually look up the information that they need to learn to code. So let's see. Course customization is also a really important feature. One of the things I always like to tell teachers is that, yeah, we do want to be a comprehensive platform. We want to give you as many resources as we can so you can teach with the CodeHS content. And free teachers, that is for you as well. So you do have access to all of those CodeHS courses in that catalog. But we also want to give you the ability to add in your own content. So is there something you like from code.org and you want to include that in there? Absolutely, you can customize it. Is there something you like from another platform? I know I still love the cyber.org content. There's so many things that we bring into our toolbox, and you know what your students need, and you know what you teach, how you teach as a computer science teacher as well. So we want to make sure you have access to that too. And so you're able to customize your course in a number of different ways. And by the way, teachers, free teachers have access to almost every single one of these customization tools. The only thing free teachers cannot do is to copy and modify an existing CodeHS assignment or quiz. But everything else, you can add content from other courses, you can add supplemental content, you can change order, you can remove content, and you can even make your own content. So if you want to add a Padlet in, you can. If you want to add, I almost said Jamboard, but that's gone. I have to try Figma, not Figma, FigJam now to see if that one embeds. We'll have to try that, Joni. I forgot to tell you. But you can embed almost anything you want. So it's pretty amazing. An amazing way to actually create that engagement for your kids. So real-time collaboration is another feature. And I know our time is getting down there, but I want to try this because it's fun. So this happens to be a CodeHS sandbox program. So every single student, every teacher, everybody who has an account on CodeHS has access to the sandbox. This is a place where you just simply have an open IDE, which is really, really cool. So now kids can create very, very robust programs and any number of programs. I'll just give you a quick look at how many you can make. Any of these program types are what you can make in the sandbox. And many of these can actually be exported and used outside of CodeHS as well. So I want to make sure to point that out. So here is the start of my Python program. I am going to click the little collaboration icon. I'm going to enable that, and I'm going to toss this link into chat. And I would love it if Joni or some of my new friends in this room would go ahead and click the link. I promise you don't have to do anything. It won't make you type in Python, but I'd love just to have you all see how this works. There we go. So you'll start to see, thank you, Dale. I appreciate you for clicking the link. And thank you, Amy. Notice all of my new friends are joining me in my sandbox. And now you can actually, if you wanted to, you can start typing in the sandbox yourself. Hi, Joni. So we've got everybody joining, and oh, there you go. Perfect. I was going to say you can copy and paste if you want. This is a really, really cool feature. It's amazing. This is where kids would do their APCSP create task. This is also where you can have kids do pair programming, mob programming, any of those kind of things. So really, really cool feature. And if I don't want you in here anymore, I can simply click disable collaboration. I'm going to leave it open. So if you want to try it later, you can. And I just won't, have my screen shared at that point. All right. Interdisciplinary CS is another really good option for us because sometimes, we have those issues, and our first speaker this morning said too, one of the barriers to CS in any school that we're in is that sometimes our schedule changes and we're not teaching CS. How do we do that? How do we get our kids CS then? Think about how we can do it in an interdisciplinary way. When you're looking through those CodeHS courses, we've got a lot for you in that regard as well. So tons of ways you can do that, and you can co-teach with other teachers to do that. we have to make those connections with our occupations and the things that we want our kids to be looking at in for their future lives. So Coding in the Wild is going to be a blog you can take a look at as well. This is going to be a really cool place where you can go and take a look at occupations that use programming. Ton of different occupations here. So this is a really cool feature to bring into your classrooms. The Career Center is another really good feature. And this is pretty new. I want to say this is only about a year old. But we started pulling together all of this information about how computer science and programming is used in various industries. So this is another way for you to connect what your kids are learning with what they might want to do outside of that, or outside of school once they get out of school. So another really good feature. There's also a project catalog, because when we think about authentic learning, we think about project-based learning. So CodeHS does have a project catalog that you can check out. And if you've got your course created, you can see that. I have too many things open, but you'll be able to see that now in your navigation bar from your teacher view over here on the left-hand side. And I wanted to throw in a couple of other resources because these were pretty transformational for me in my own classroom. If you're not familiar with ncwit.org or Aspirations in Computing from NCWIT, these are two organizations you absolutely must connect with. Please take some time, sometime today or next week, to head out to ncwit.org or aspirations.org. Every single year, NCWIT has the Aspirations in Computing Award, where high school girls or non-binary students, or those students who identify as female, can apply for the Aspirations Award. They don't have to have tremendous accomplishments in computer science. They just simply need to think about how computer science impacts their life, and they can apply for the Aspirations Award. These kids are not stock photos. These are my kids. These were my students. I'm very proud of these kids. Every single year and these are my rural students. So think about that. How many of these kids would not have had this opportunity? And this young woman, the blonde on the end here, happened to be a brand new student for my school. And that year she came to me and said, I really don't like computers, Ms. G, and I'm going to try hard, but I don't think I'm going to do great, but I'm going to try. And I said, great, challenge accepted. A few months later, she was standing here and with one of those awards. So I highly recommend check this out. It is an amazing program. Girls Who Code, of course, another program that I'd highly recommend starting. This one, Girls Who Code, will also give you a little bit of funding as well. So amazing to help drive motivation for your kiddos. And supporting teachers. And I thought we had an hour. Did we go to 30 after, or is it 22?
I'll have to look at that.
Okay.
I'll have to look back. I was just keeping going.
Okay, I'm going to keep talking. So I've got just a little bit left to go. So if you've missed anything, definitely head out to those slides. But we went through a lot of different resources to talk about engaging our rural kids, NCWIT to connect our female students, non-binary students, and those who identify as female, and Girls Who Code. Love this. I still have my Girls Who Code shirt. Support for educators, making those connections. One of the things that you can all do, and rural teachers, this is so critical to keep these connections strong, because so often we experience much more isolation than teachers from those larger districts. So one of the things I actually used to do was to co-teach with other CS teachers using CodeHS. So you could co-teach with other teachers in your district. So if you want to do something interdisciplinary, if you don't have a CS course, this is a great way to bring this into your other subjects. Or you can teach with teachers from other districts, other counties, other states. I used to teach with teachers who were much further away from me than let's let me see here. We're pretty geographically sparse, so I was trying to find too much stuff. There we go. So you'll see from this teacher view, and I haven't refreshed it in a bit. We'll go ahead and see if we can refresh it. Got a few more friends joining. Thank you for joining, everybody. So you'll see that right now I'm teaching with Joni. This is absolutely something you all can do. This is not a restriction that is just a pro account, nothing like that. You can absolutely co-teach with other CS teachers, other teachers in general. So definitely check that out. I've included a little bit more information about how you can do that. And make sure you stay connected with your colleagues and community members. I didn't mention this one, but I guess I sort of did, but reach out to those industry professionals as well. That's going to be another really amazing way to build those connections with your community and help build those connections for your kids who might not be aware of that. But stay connected with each other. This is an amazing conference and an amazing organization. And you all have some amazing CSTA local chapters. I think you've got 8 in the state. So I thought that was so amazing. So definitely, if you are not a member, absolutely join. I've been a CSTA Plus member for many, many years, and it's absolutely valuable. So check out all those resources and stay connected. We also have a resource for you at CodeHS. If you want to join our Slack community, you can do that at codehs.com/community-connect. And I don't know where Joni went. I think Joni fell off, so I'm not sure. Hopefully you all can see me. I think you can. So, and the thing that I really want to leave all of you with is this, because I think it is really inspiring. And I get to I have the privilege of talking and meeting so many computer science teachers, so many educators around the country, actually around the world in many of our workshops. And I love this statistic. 81% of teachers felt that they had influenced the growth of CS within their school district. And yes, you have. And not only have you influenced the growth of CS within your school district, think about those lives that you're having an impact on. You are giving your kids the keys to succeed. So take that away with you and feel proud. I'm so proud of you for what you do. So thank you. Thank you all for what you do. You are amazing. I'm going to leave you with a few other resources. We've got, I have a lot of links, actually. I could keep going with the links. If you are a CodeHS fan, I highly, highly recommend that you become a certified educator. We've changed that program just a little bit, and we now have application periods where you can apply to become a certified educator. But it's an amazing program. I was a certified educator. I keep bugging them to give me my little ribbon back because I still want to be a certified educator too. You can absolutely check out other free workshops that we have available. codehs.com/freepd to see everything that we have. You can join our community Slack workspace. Oh, I forgot to change my little Twitter bird. That's all right. You can absolutely follow us on social media. We are on Threads now as well. Oh, and we're on TikTok. So if we have TikTok fans, definitely check that out. And if you'd like to learn more about bringing pro to your school, you can do that by filling out this form here, codehs.com/learnmorecs4ny 2023. That is very long. I would just scan the QR code instead. And that's for pro. But what I would say is if you are a free teacher and you are looking to check it out and pro might be a little tougher or out of reach right now, know that you can still use CodeHS as a free teacher. 2014 to 2019. I taught a lot of computer science and programming with CodeHS, and it was transformational for me in my small rural district. All right. And I think that's the info that we have for you today. I know that was fast. It was a lot of stuff. I love talking to other teachers and rural teachers especially, because we all have our own challenges. So is there any questions?
Yeah, I was going to say, Laura, it looks like we have about 3 minutes left. So you guys, if you have any questions, I know that we need to use chat. Is there anything that we can answer that Lori can answer? She is awesome with rural schools, has a whole bag of information in her head that if we let her talk all day, she will talk all day. So just put it in there.
Thanks, Dale. I appreciate that. Joni also is awesome. I just don't, I'm never quiet.
So any questions, you guys? I know that when we had Virginia was having a hard time. She was in as a student. I got her in as a teacher really quickly. So if you're, if you're like, okay, I'm not quite sure what just happened or whatever, throw it into chat. You guys, we'll be here. If you're trying to do something and can't get it accomplished, we can do the best we can in this situation to be able to help you right now.
And one thing too is, I will say, whether you're free or pro, one of the coolest things that we always found about CodeHS was that support is there for you. We got you. There is always really good follow-up, so you can head out to codehs.com/CodeHS. The link that Joni put in chat, go ahead and click that. I'm not even going to try to say it anymore. But you can reach out there, or you can email us at any time. Joni and I both really love connecting with teachers. So if you reach out to our email addresses right here, we'll absolutely respond. We want you to be successful. So that's why we're here. Yeah, so let us know. Or better yet, if you have something you'd like to share, if you have a cool thing that your amazing kids have done, please share it with us. We are both teachers at heart, and we just want to see kids succeed. So let us know what you're doing with your kids. Ridiculously excited for that. I'm getting all round up again. I'm going to go over time if I let myself. Any other questions, anybody? And if you prefer to email us your questions, please don't hesitate to do that. This has been amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you for letting us be here with you today and talk about rural CS and what we think could work for your kids. And I'm going to give another plug because I really, really loved the session from this morning and I'm trying to, let me see, I'm going to find their name because I'm feeling terrible now. Victoria Berkowitz and Karita Fidi. They did an amazing session on increasing accessibility in CS through asynchronous and self-paced courses. That is absolutely a program that I think could benefit rural schools in a huge way. So I did a lot with asynchronous and self-paced courses, and CodeHS was the main platform I used for that. So as a free teacher, so I just put that out there one more time. If you can do pro, it's pretty amazing. But if not, you can do this with the free plan as well. All right. Y'all, this was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
With us today. Oh, cool.
Yeah, this is going to be great.
Yes.
He's running circles around him. Yeah, I get it.
My students ran circles around me too.
Same.
Love it. That is so cool. Keep us posted on how that goes. I would love to see what your student creates. That's so cool. Love it. And we actually,
come on, guys. Yeah, have fun with that.
We might have some older workshops that could help you if you've got any questions there. You're probably in a really good place with that, though. So, but let us know if you've got questions. Cool. All right, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you, Lori.
Joni, it was fun hanging out with you.
Yeah. You guys go teach. Go do great things. See ya.
Bye-bye, everybody.